My name is Arya Solis, and 2 days ago, my life still made sense. I woke up in a small but sunlit apartment, brewed cheap coffee, and walked to my customer support job, low pay, long hours, but predictable. Stability mattered to me. After growing up with a mother who treated responsibility like an optional hobby, I clung to routines like lifelines. Then, in a single afternoon, everything cracked. "We're restructuring," my manager said, eyes sliding away from mine. "Today's your last day." I packed my little desk plant, my half-dead headset, and the hope that maybe, just maybe, they would change their minds. They didn't. My severance was a joke. My final paycheck was smaller than usual. Much smaller. When I got home, my key wouldn't turn. A bright orange notice was taped across my door, locked out for non-payment, confused. I checked my bank app. Balance, $186.14, gone, nearly everything gone. Rent money, emergency fund, bills dot, and then a text popped up from the woman responsible. "Mom, Belle needed help for her Paris trip. You can earn it back." Family helps family. I stared at the message until the words blurred. Belle, my cousin who hadn't worked a real job in her life. My mother who always bailed her out using my money. And now I was the one sleeping in my car dot, so that night, under flickering streetlights in a supermarket parking lot, I curled up in the driver's seat of my dented sedan. The air smelled like rain. My breath fogged the cold windows. Everything I owned fit in a single duffel bag. I wasn't crying anymore, just thinking one exhausted, bitter thought, if this was rock bottom. What came next? Rain started as a whisper on the windshield, then turned into a full drumming assault. I sat upright in the driver's seat of my old sedan, hugging my jacket tighter, hoping the storm would drown out my thoughts. The last thing I expected was a knock on the glass. I froze. Another knock, firmer this time. A dim figure stood outside, holding an umbrella that barely shielded him from the downpour. My heart slammed against my ribs. This was how horror movies started. I cracked the window an inch. "Yes." A deep, steady voice replied, "You shouldn't be sleeping in a car in weather like this." I blinked rain off my lashes, finally getting a clear look at him. He was old, maybe mid-70s. Silver hair, tailored coat, posture too straight for someone his age. He didn't look dangerous. He looked important. The kind of important you only see in documentaries about people who own islands. I'm fine," I said. He studied me with eyes that felt like they saw straight through my excuses. "Do you own this car?" That question hit oddly hard. "Yes," I whispered. He nodded like the answer confirmed something he'd been wondering. The stranger pulled a business card from his coat pocket and slipped it through the window. "My name is Elias Hartwell. If you'd like a meal, a warm place to sit, or simply a chance to speak to someone who won't judge your circumstances, come inside the diner across the street." I stared at the card. Embossed edges. Heavy stock. The name rang a faint bell, like something I'd heard once, but didn't understand. Elias gave a small nod and walked toward the neon-lit diner, stepping through puddles with calm, confident strides. I stayed in the car for 10 full minutes, wrestling with fear, pride, and the undeniable ache of hunger twisting my stomach. Finally, lightning cracked overhead. My roof leaked in 2 places. Fine, just for warmth, I told myself. I grabbed my duffel, opened the door, and ran across the parking lot. When I stepped inside, the bell above the diner door jingled softly. Elias sat in a booth, watching the rain. He didn't look surprised to see me. He simply gestured to the seat opposite him. "Arya," he said softly, "it's time we talked." His tone carried weight. Like he knew something about me I didn't. Like this storm wasn't the worst thing coming, but maybe, just maybe, the beginning of everything. The diner smelled like burnt coffee and buttered toast, the kind of warmth that felt almost unreal after a night in my freezing car. I slid into the booth across from him, still gripping my damp duffel like a shield. Elias dashed no. Arthur, as he now introduced himself, watched me with a calm, unreadable expression. I'm sorry, I said, swallowing my pride. Thank you for the meal. I'll pay you back when you won't, he interrupted gently. This isn't charity. The waitress refilled our cups. Arthur waited until she left before placing something on the table between us. My resume. I stared. How? Where did you? You dropped it when you bolted from your landlord, he said. I found it in the parking lot. His voice was even, but his eyes were searching me for something. You're capable, he continued. Skilled, overworked, underestimated, and I want to know if resilience is still a muscle you can use. I felt heat climb up my neck. If you're offering a job, I'm not. He folded the resume once, precisely. I don't hand out opportunities to people who are drowning. I test whether they can swim. My stomach twisted. So you're not going to help me? Oh, I am helping you, Arthur said. But not the way you expect. He slid a thin folder toward me. Inside were photos of a rundown parking lot, crumbling asphalt, flickering lights, and handwritten numbers. This location loses money every month, he said. Granite Yards, it shouldn't. Something is wrong. I want you to spend 72 hours there, observe, calculate, and tell me why it's failing. I blinked. You want me to audit a parking lot? I want you to prove whether you're someone worth investing in. He leaned closer. You have 3 days, Arya. No assistance. No instructions. No excuses. I stared at the photos, at the chaos of cracked pavement and faulty systems. I had nothing, no home, no job, no safety net, but I had this, a challenge, a chance, and a mysterious billionaire watching to see what I would do next. Granite Yards looked even worse in person. When I arrived the next morning, the air smelled like rust, exhaust, and something faintly rotten. Half the light poles didn't work. The painted lines were faded to ghosts. The booth attendant, a man named Carl, barely glanced up from his phone as I approached. You knew? He muttered. Just observing, I replied. He shrugged and returned to scrolling. Not exactly reassuring. For the next hour, I walked the perimeter, counting malfunctioning lights, potholes, and broken signs. But what struck me wasn't the disrepair, it was the math. Cars flowed steadily. But the revenue didn't match the traffic. Not even close. I checked the automated payment system. 3 kiosks were out of order, but that didn't seem right. The screens weren't cracked. The wiring was intact. One unplugged connector, and suddenly the machine was broken. Easy to fake, easy to scam. I plugged one back in. It powered instantly. How'd I check the others? Same thing. All disconnected in the exact same way. My stomach tightened. This wasn't neglect. This was sabotage. Excuse me, I said to Carl. Why are these machines unplugged? He stiffened. Management said they're glitching. Management who? He hesitated too long. I moved on. At noon, a white SUV rolled in. A woman stepped out, sharp heels, sharper stare. She walked like she owned the pavement. I recognized her instantly. Belle, my cousin. Why was she here? Belle smoothed her designer coat and snapped her fingers at Carl. Get the Friday envelopes? Envelopes? Carl jumped up, rushed into the booth, and returned with 3 thick, rubber-banded stacks. Cash. Belle stuffed them into her tote without counting. My breath froze. She glanced at me then, eyes widening in annoyance. What are you doing here, Arya? I could ask you the same, I shot back. She scoffed. Family business? Don't worry about it. Then she smirked a spoiled, smug smirk and drove away. I watched her taillights disappear and tried to swallow the rising nausea. Family. Business? Belle didn't have a job. She never had one. So what exactly was she collecting? I called the number on the back of one payment kiosk, Hailstone Metro Operations. The company Arthur allegedly oversaw. Hi, yes, who's the site manager for Granite Yards? I asked out. The woman on the phone paused. That lot doesn't have a site manager. It's fully automated. My heart dropped. Thank you, I whispered, ending the call. No site manager. No cash collections authorized. No reason Belle should be anywhere near this place. This wasn't just petty theft. This was systematic. I dug deeper, visiting 2 nearby lots under the same company. Same unplugged machines. Same broken signs. Same suspicious cash logs. And at the 3rd lot, I found a name, Rowan Management Services. Authorized access, Caleb. Rowan Caleb, my mother's trusted financial advisor. The man she always praised. The man who encouraged her to borrow money using my account just until payday. He controlled these lots, and Belle, of course, was his favorite puppet. I returned to my car and opened my notebook, hands shaking as I made connections. Multiple lots broken in identical ways. Cash collections handled. Off-record fake maintenance charges billed monthly. Handwritten logs instead of digital reports. Belle collecting thousands weekly. Caleb's company acting as a middleman now. Official oversight anywhere. This wasn't. Mismanagement. It was a fraud network, and it was big. Millions. Big. Suddenly, Arthur's question from the diner echoed in my head. Do you own this car? I understood now. He wasn't asking about the car. He was asking if I had ownership of my circumstances, or if someone else did. And someone did. My mother, Belle, Caleb. They hadn't just drained my bank account. They've been using my name, my records, my digital authorizations for years. By the end of the day, I knew 2 things with absolute certainty. 1, Arthur didn't test me randomly. He suspected this. 2, my family wasn't just toxic, they were criminals, and I was the only one who had stumbled into their entire operation. Now I had a choice: expose them, or let them bury me. The fraud network had rattled me, but I still wasn't prepared for what happened next. The smear campaign didn't start quietly. It detonated 1 hour after leaving Granite Yards. My phone lit up with messages, dozens of them screenshots. Texts, forwards. My cousin Belle had posted a long, tear-stained video on Facebook. And my mother had shared it. The caption, "Pray for our family. My daughter Aria has lost control." I clicked the video. Belle was sitting in her luxury car, mascara running down her cheeks. Dramatic as always. "She's accusing us of crimes," Belle wailed. "Her own family. We've only ever tried to help her, but she's mentally unstable and paranoid. She needs prayer, not judgment." She sniffled, making sure her diamond bracelet glinted on camera. Then she delivered the kill shot. She came to my work today screaming at people, claiming she knew everything. I'm terrified for her. Please, if anyone sees her, get her help. My jaw clenched. I had said nothing to anyone. I hadn't raised my voice once, and she had turned my investigation into a mental health crisis performance. Within minutes, relatives I hadn't talked to in years began chiming in. She always struggled emotionally. She should have stayed close to her mother. We did everything for her. Poor Belle, dealing with all this stress. My phone buzzed nonstop. Aunt Mel wrote, "You humiliated your cousin. Apologize publicly or stay away from this family." Another text appeared from my mother. "Come home. We'll fix this. But only if you stop these accusations. Fix this." They were scrambling. They knew I had seen too much at Granite Yards. They knew the unplugged kiosks were an accident. They knew I had discovered Caleb's involvement, and now they were using the oldest trick in the book. Discredit the whistleblower. I sat there in my parked car, the afternoon sun flickering through my windshield, illuminating every message. Every lie. Something inside me hardened. They weren't just protecting their money. They were protecting their system, a system they had trapped me in for years, a system they assumed I was too tired, too alone, or too scared to challenge. Then another notification popped up, this time from a local community gossip group. Does anyone know Arya Solis? Family says she's having a breakdown, causing scenes at businesses. Hope she gets help. Someone said police might get involved. My blood ran cold. They were escalating the story, trying to make me look unstable enough that any accusations I made would sound like delusion. That's when a new message arrived from an unknown number. Stop digging. Arya, you're making this worse for yourself. No name. No signature. Just a warning. My hands tightened around the phone. They wanted me scared. They wanted me silent. But instead, something in me clicked into place, a cold, analytical calm. If they wanted a public story, I would give them one on my terms. The smear campaign had turned into a wildfire. But they forgot one crucial thing. I wasn't fighting with emotions. I was fighting with data. The moment that anonymous threat pinged my phone, the panic evaporated. Cold clarity took its place. They wanted to paint me as unstable. Fine. I would drown them in proof. I drove straight back to the dorm Arthur had given me. The small metal desk, the humming fluorescent light, none of it mattered. What mattered were the files I'd collected from Granite. Yards.receipts. Timestamps. System. Logs showing the exact minutes the attendants pocketed. Cache. Screenshots of the VIP access logs tied to Bell's name, even the unplugged router photographed, cataloged, documented. Every pixel was a weapon. I opened a fresh spreadsheet and began building what Arthur would later call the cleanest evidence trail he'd seen in years. At the top, I typed high and internal FRAUD preliminary report, prepared by Al Solis. The numbers told a story more brutal than any tearful live stream. 37% of daily revenue was unaccounted for, the same too. Attendance shifts always aligned with the missing. Income. Bell's VIP tag had used the lot 19 times in the last 30 days, none of which were logged. Caleb. Rowan's shell company name appeared in 3 unexplained transactions. This wasn't a smear. This was an indictment. By midnight. The report was done slick, organized, time-stamped, proofed. The kind of document that could hold up in a courtroom. Then I did the one thing my family never expected. Sent it straight to Arthur. No explanations. No apologies. Just the truth. 5 minutes later, my email pinged. Arthur, good. Prepare yourself. Tomorrow 9 a.m. Nothing else. No praise. No sympathy. It didn't matter. The message was clear. He believed the data, and he believed me. That night, while Belle continued crying to her followers and my mother texted me paragraphs about embarrassing the family, I slept soundly for the first time in days. Because for the first time in my life, they couldn't twist the story. Not. When the numbers told it for me, Arthur didn't summon me to his office. The next morning. He summoned me to the boardroom. Hale Houses. 42nd floor was nothing like the quiet, cold office where he first tested me. This level was a cathedral of power-glass walls, a marble table the size of a dining hall, and 30 people in suits worth more than my annual salary. When I stepped inside, the room stopped breathing. My mother wasn't there. Belle wasn't there. But their protectors were Great Aunt Margot, a fossil preserved in pearls, Philip and Edward, cousins I'd never met, but instantly recognized as men who mistook inheritance for achievement. And at the far end, Caleb Rowan, perfect hair, perfect posture, The man who'd stolen from my paychecks for years and then weaponized my mother as a human shield. His eyes slid over me like one might assess a smudge on a window. Arthur sat at the head. Impenetrable. This meeting, he said, is to address concerns regarding internal stability and recent operational disruptions. Translation, they wanted me fired before I'd even been hired. Margot spoke first, voice trembling with performative disappointment. It has come to our attention that this consultant, she waved a thin hand toward me, has sown chaos across multiple departments. She has disrupted long-standing vendor relationships, attacked respected advisors, she nodded toward Caleb, and caused significant distress to Linda and her daughter. There it was. The narrative. I was the villain. The ungrateful daughter. The jealous cousin. The unstable outsider stirring up trouble. And, Philip added, we propose appointing Belle Whitaker as the representative for the Third Generation Trust. A stabilizing force? Of course they did. I waited. Arthur's gaze found mine. Miss Solis, you may respond. 7 words, permission not to defend myself. But to destroy them, I stood, walked to the far wall, plugged in my battered 5-year-old laptop, and projected my dashboard onto the 90-inch display. Every number glowed like a weapon. This, I said, is what your stability looks like. Slide 1, Greyland Cold Storage, unauthorized tenants. A hidden kitchen. A 28% utility bleed. Slide 2, Brookspan Logistics 17 fake invoices. 1 digital signature copied and pasted across them all. $400,000 missing. Slide 3, Iron. Hall Event Center booking logs overlaid with Belle's live stream schedule. 60% of the venue used for her unpaid art sessions. Slide 4, Granite Yards, a permanent VIP tag assigned to Belfry access, unlocked visits. The launch point of an entire fraud pipeline. The room froze. Caleb's face drained of color. Margot stammered something about family accommodations, but I cut her off. Accommodations, I repeated, aren't supposed to bankrupt a corporation. Then, the final blow, a high-resolution screenshot of Caleb's Instagram, post him holding a used diagnostic scanner at a trade show. Beside it, the invoice billing High and Forge for new scanners. And the photo I'd taken peeling back the fake serial number. The match was perfect. The room erupted. Chairs scraped. Lawyers whispered urgently. One investor swore under his breath, and Arthur? He simply leaned back, hands folded. Before we continue, he said calmly, Ms. Davis from the forensic audit team will confirm whether Ms. Solis' findings are legitimate. The auditor stood. They are not only legitimate, she said. They are damning. Silence. Caleb's mask shattered. In the boardroom, once their battleground, had become mine. The fallout from the boardroom showdown should have ended the chaos. But Arthur wasn't finished, not even close. 2 days later, he summoned me again. Not to the boardroom. Not to his office. To a private legal suite on the 50th floor. A room lined with leather chairs, heavy curtains, and a sense of finality that made my pulse stumble. Inside sat Arthur, his attorney, a court official, and one sealed oak box. Arthur gestured to the seat beside him. Aria, today you learn the rest. The attorney opened a folder. We are here to execute the posthumous directives of Helena Hartwell, Arthur's late wife. Her will was updated 12 years ago. I blinked. Helena Hartwell, a philanthropist, a business pioneer, a woman whose face hung in portraits across the building. Why was I here? Arthur nodded for them to continue. The attorney lifted the lid of the oak box. Inside were 2 things, a small velvet pouch and a handwritten letter addressed to Aria. Solis. My breath hitched. I looked at Arthur. I never met her. His jaw tightened. You did, once. You were 5. You wouldn't remember. The room spun. The attorney read aloud. If Arya ever finds her way back to us, if fate brings her to Hale House, she must know the truth. My hands trembled as he passed me the letter. Arthur's eyes were softer than I'd ever seen them. Your grandmother, he said quietly, left something for you. The word hit me like impact. Grandmother, not metaphorically. Not symbolically. Biologically. My mother had always said the Hartwells were no relation. That any resemblance was coincidence. That I was imagining things, but the letter told a different story. It was filled with memories of me as a toddler visiting secretly with my mother before she cut ties. Of my laugh, my curls, the way I clung to Helena's necklace. The velvet pouch. Opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a delicate gold locket, engraved with the Hartwell crest, and a photograph of Helena holding a baby. Me. Tears blurred the room. The attorney cleared his throat, and, according to her final codicil, if Arya ever resurfaced, Helena's 24% share of Hale House holdings passes directly to her. My heart stopped. 24%. Almost a quarter of the company. Controlling block, inheritor, not outsider. No wonder Arthur had tested me. No wonder the board wanted me erased. The will didn't just change my life. It detonated the family power structure. For the first time, I wasn't fighting for survival. I was fighting as an heir. News of Helena Hartwells will spread through the family like a gas leak, silent, invisible, and ready to explode the moment someone struck a match. The match was Belle. Within hours of the announcement, she stormed into Hale House's lobby with my mother and 3 other relatives trailing behind her, all red-faced and trembling with entitlement. Security stopped them at the turnstiles, but Belle shrieked loud enough to echo through the marble foyer. You mean to tell me that she jabbed a manicured finger upward, as if I were perched on the roof, gets everything? A nobody? A mistake? Arthur stepped out of the elevator so silently, the crowd parted on instinct. She gets exactly what Helena wanted, he said coldly. My mother pushed forward, eyes wild. She is unstable. She steals. She abandoned her family. She has no right to any Hartwell inheritance. Arthur raised a hand. My mother froze mid-rant. Linda, he said, voice low enough to make the lobby hum quiet. The only reason you are not being escorted out is because this building has rules against dragging people across marble floors. Gasps rippled across the crowd. He continued. Your daughter is the only one Helena trusted. And you, his gaze sharpened, used her name to commit fraud. My mother's face collapsed. I didn't know Caleb handled. Caleb handled exactly what you approved, Arthur said. Meanwhile, Caleb himself was being walked out in handcuffs by corporate investigators. His face was pale. Belle's scream cracked through the air. This is your fault. She shrieked at me as security held her back. You ruined us. But the truth was simpler. They ruined themselves. All I did was shine a light on the rot. I stepped off the elevator then. Calm, steady, locket warm against my skin. My mother stared at me like I was a ghost she'd tried to bury. Arya, she whispered, we can fix this. Come home. We're still family. For the first time in my life, I felt nothing, not fear, not guilt, not longing, just clarity. No, I said softly. We were family. And then you sold me for convenience. Her face crumpled, but I didn't stay to watch it. I walked past them, Belle screaming, my mother pleading, the lobby buzzing with whispers, and stepped into the elevator alone. The doors closed with a quiet, final click. And just like that, the last thread binding me to them snapped. Forever. When the board convened for the emergency session, the energy in the room had shifted. Days earlier, I had been a forgotten girl sleeping in a car. Now, every pair of eyes tracked me with an unsettling combination of fear and respect. Arthur stood, cane in one hand, presence filling the room. As of today, he announced, Helena Hartwell's wishes are officially enacted. Arya Solis holds 24% voting power. The era of silence and corruption ends here. A low murmur swept through the board. Some members bowed their heads. Others stiffened, those loyal to Caleb's network. Those who benefited quietly from the shadows. Asterisk I rose slowly. Feeling the weight of the keycard in my palm, my access to everything Hartwell. This company isn't dying, I said, voice steady. It's waking up. And I'm not here to burn it down. I'm here to rebuild it the way Helena intended. Transparent, accountable, and untouchable. Arthur's eyes gleamed with pride. I walked to the head of the table. My new seat, the room went silent. From this chair, Helena once reshaped industries. From this chair, Caleb had siphoned millions. And from this chair, I would rewrite the entire future of the Hartwell legacy. For those who want truth, I continued, you'll have a place here. For those who want corruption, there's the door. 2 members stood and left without a word. Good. The rest stayed. Arthur beside me and the locket resting warm against my skin. I cast my first vote as a Hartwell. Motion to remove all fraudulent third-party contracts and launch a full-scale internal audit. The motion passed unanimously. I had taken the throne, not through bloodlines, pity, or inheritance alone, but because I proved I deserved it. Final message to the audience. Sometimes the family you're born into will bury your light to protect their shadows. But the moment you choose truth over acceptance, boundaries over guilt, and self-worth over blood, you don't just survive, you take back your power. And you build a legacy no one can touch. If this story resonated with you, remember, breaking away isn't betrayal, sometimes it's salvation.